A very warm and hearty good day to all of you. My name is Ramanpreet Kaur Bhatia. I'm a chartered accountant from ICAI, a certified public accountant from CPA Australia, and a distinguished Toastmaster from Toastmasters International. In this video, I'll be talking about the industry life cycle stages and how the disruption happens within the industry life cycle stages and how an organization should cope up with that disruption. I hope all of you will find some value in this video. So let us start with industry life cycle stages. Organizations operate within an industry according to maturity of the industry and according to different stages of life cycle of industry. Different factors are important for organizations' competitiveness during these life cycle stages. Just like product, an organization also goes through the different stages of lifestyle. But it is obvious in the case of a product, we can say that the product life ultimately terminates because a product at one stage will become obsolete or will get depleted or will get eliminated. But can an organization or an industry also terminate or get eliminated? Yes, at one stage it can, but it can renew and regroup also. How? Through technology, through strategy, through innovation. So there are 5 different stages of an industry life cycle, which we are going to talk about now. These stages are startup phase, growth phase, maturity phase, shakeout phase, and declining phase. So essentially, there are these 5 different life cycle stages through which an industry goes through. However, when the industry is at the decline stage or renewal phase, it can grow also. How? With change in technology, new strategy, and innovation. For example, my industry is already declining and my sales have hit rock bottom. My products are not working anymore. I'm totally at the verge of moving out from the industry. But suddenly, one of my employees makes a new innovation and we introduce a new product. Our sales immediately start growing up. So in that case, I am not being eliminated completely. I have just renewed myself. We'll be discussing these stages in detail. So the first stage that we are going to talk about is the startup phase. In the startup phase, the industry is new, and hence there are very few competitors. Since this is the startup phase, the industry is less structured and is in a learning stage. The industry is iterative. It is learning on the run. And there is short-term profitability. I'm not talking about profits right now. Right now, I'm just talking about my establishment, my organization's establishment in the whole market. So I'm not thinking about profits anymore. It's just the short-term profitability. Another characteristic is because the industry is new, so I have limited resources. I have limited capabilities. I am inexperienced. I'm still in the learning stage. I need to be innovative. I need to be experimental here. So for that, what does an organization do? For that, the organization needs to invest in research and development. Now, here comes the need to invest, which means I need to have funds in my account. But since this is just the startup phase, there is always negative cash flow. So an organization is just using its reserves to fund itself. An organization is using its reserve money to invest in research and development. And so in this startup phase, there is generally a negative cash flow. Now, there is a term which is used in the module, which is the valley of death. Value of death is negative cash flow. Because as I said, the resources are limited, the capabilities are limited, the experience is very less. So an organization needs to be innovative, an organization needs to invest. I'm investing more, but I'm getting less. So there is short-term profitability. There is generally a negative cash flow, which will be known as value of death. Right? There are different approaches to the industry in terms of product type, features, performance, and target market. Why? Because the organization is still inexperienced in terms of actual performance. There is a need to nurture relationship between buyer and supplier. If I am the buyer, this is my startup phase, I need to have a good rapport with my supplier. And if I'm in the supplier category, I need to have good relationship with the buyers. So an organization in its startup phase need to nurture those relationships. Right? We need to talk about the position of buyers and suppliers in this whole scenario. Since we already said that there are very few competitors, so it's but obvious there are very few alternatives. A buyer does not have option to choose from lots of things. There are very few competitors. If there is only one or two products available, he has to choose only between one and two. So we can say that the power of buyer is low. When we talk about supplier's point of view, we know that, say, I am the only supplier in the market or I have a monopoly, so my power is high because the industry is yet to have significant impact. There are not much suppliers in the industry. Right? So the power of supplier is high in this case. These are the characteristics of the startup phase of an industry. What is the kind of leadership that is required here? What does a public accountant or a chartered accountant has to do in this situation? Now, if you remember, we talked about risk taker leadership style. Who is the risk taker? Who brings organization to its present place? I am taking that risk. I'm starting an organization, and this kind of leadership is required in the startup phase. So the leadership style, which is appropriate for a startup phase, is being that of a risk taker. Right? So this is the startup phase. I'm just starting an organization. The next phase that we come to is the growth phase. Right? The growth phase. Now, what happens in growth phase? Now the startup stage is over. An organization is slowly progressing towards the growth stage. An organization is slowly getting more and more experience. An organization is slowly expanding. Organization is looking for present product expansion and improvement in distribution logistics in order to position itself furthermost. The new competitors are coming up in the market, but still there is enough room for everyone, right? Because the demand still exceeds the supply. The new competitors, that's why they can come. There is competition, but not very extreme. I am not competing with anyone here. I'm just competing only, I will start competing with my competitors only in the maturity phase. Right now, it's the growth phase. Right? So we are slowly becoming experienced right now. And not everybody is on equal state, so there is less competition. The leaders are still inexperienced. The leaders look to keep in touch with only with the current trend towards stability. So as a leader, I should not be looking towards future. I should be looking only towards maintaining the present kind of performance. If we talk about cash and profitability at this stage, we understand that cash is still short as funds are needed for investment to cater for higher growth in future. There might be stagnant profit as there is expansion plan. The profits are very low. Now, earlier we said that there is competition, but not very extreme. There is enough room for everyone. So there are no entry barriers. The competitors are entering the market. The entry barriers are very low. Right? What kind of leadership is required for this space? Again, if you just recall our video on leadership style of previous module, we talked about transactional leaders. Who are transactional leaders? We use the term maintenance leaders for transactional leaders. So who are transactional leaders? They just have to maintain the current performance which is going on. They have to be risk taker. The leader has to adopt a processual approach. Now, what is that processual approach? We'll be studying about that in module 7 in detail. I'll just give you characteristics of this approach. That is, we need to be adaptive. We need to be consultative. We have to be emergent. And we need to analyze the external uncontrolled factors. So this is growth phase for me, right? We'll just recall it again. Demand exceeds supply, new competitors, enough room for everyone, low entry barrier, less competition. Expansion plans. Competitive differentiation is not critical right now. Right now, we are just looking to maintain our position. We are not actually competing with anyone. Right? And there are no healthy profits. There are only low profits because we are still growing. Still, our expenses are more than our profits, right? So after we pass the growth stage, we reach the maturity phase. What is maturity phase? Here, the supply is equal to demand. In the growth phase, we saw that more and more people are entering in the competition arena, and there is enough room for everyone. So now what has happened is now we are in the maturity stage. There are so many competitors, and hence there is an increased, intense rivalry among the competitors. And to combat that rivalry, more and more consolidations and mergers are happening. Let us try and control the competitiveness. Let us try and merge. So that is happening in this stage. So instead of fighting with each other, competitors may decide to combine, to consolidate, to just merge with each other. What about the growth rate? Now the growth rate has stabilized to normal rate. And as the name suggests, this is the maturity phase. So we say that the growth rate has stabilized and has become normal rate of growth. So that I am at maturity. People are well aware of their demands. The supply is equal to demand. Now here, the original products and strategy with which we started might become obsolete, right? The planning for a startup, for growth and for maturity is different. Earlier, we were just looking for expansion. Now we are looking for competition. Right? So we need to modify our strategies. The strategies are developed to defend present market position and to maximize profit. Now, again, pause for a moment and think about the position of barriers in this case. Since there are lots of competitors in the market, there are lots of products available in the market. Definitely, buyers will have more power in this case. There are a number of products to choose from for a buyer. They have alternative products available. They have alternative suppliers available. So the power of buyer is more in the maturity phase. Now, in this stage, there is a positive cash flow now as the organization has started making profit. The organization is matured now. And if it is making profit, it is having a positive cash flow. Right? My processes are established. So I work on a low cost strategy. Each and every process is stable now. So we know how to alter these processes so that we can increase our cost efficiency and hence we can increase our profits ultimately. Here, what kind of leadership is required again? The leaders have to focus on efficiency, cost control, and market segmentation. As leaders, we will cater only to specific market segments or what we call as industry segments. What kind of leadership is required? The transactional leader. and caretaker. Again, just recall that video on leadership style. Transactional leader, a maintenance leader. Of course, maintenance leader is there, but then at the same time, the leader has to become a caretaker also to ensure that this stage continues. Right? And majority of the companies remain at this space for most of their lives, because definitely this is where we are making profits. Every organization want to be in this place. Right? So this is the maturity phase for us. Now we go to the fourth phase, which is the shakeout phase. The organization started growing. The organization matured. Now, after maturity, there is a shakeout phase. A time comes when the profits are just stable. They are neither decreasing nor are they increasing. So this is also known as a plateau stage, right? Where our organization is almost on a flat level and there is possible decline of growth and profitability. Many organizations leave the industry at this stage due to low returns, and thereby when the firms are leaving, again, the rivalry is reduced, the competitiveness is reduced. Right? As I said, at the maturity phase, most of the companies remain here. Once they go in the shakeout phase, they want to leave the industry. In this stage, organizations just want to protect their position and maintain their profitable operations. Now, if the profitability is declining for firms who have competition with each other, they might decide to join their hands. So mergers and acquisitions also happen at this stage. They happen at the stage of maturity also, and the mergers happen at the stage of shakeout phase also. This stage is also known as the internal analysis kind of phase, where we just have to assess the external environment vis-a-vis my internal environment. Try and judge the external environment with respect to your own capabilities. And then the organization decide whether they should stay or whether they should leave. Because at this stage, this is the decision state. I have already matured. I'm already earning maximum profits that I can. Now, when I am at shakeout stage, I have to decide, can I increase my profits further? Do I have the capabilities? Is the outside environment supporting me? Right? So based on that, when I do this kind of assessment, based on that only, I have to decide whether I should stay here or leave. Then again comes the point of leadership. The leadership style preferred for this stage is transactional leader. So transactional leader is one such leadership style which will be there, which will be predominant in all the phases of an industry life cycle. Right. So the style preferred for this phase is transactional leader plus the surgeon. Just to recall, who is the surgeon? A leader who cut or remove those parts of the organization which are hindrance now. And they fight against the current problems. Right? So this is the fourth stage for an organization's, the life cycle stage of an industry, which is the shakeout phase. Now we come to the last stage of an organization, of an industry. Here in this stage, either the organization totally eliminates, totally goes out of the picture, or it may renew and regrow. So this is the last stage, the decline and renewal phase. What are the characteristics? Now, why do we say that decline or renewal stage? Because when I gave the introduction of industry cycle, I said industry organizations might become unprofitable and just go to decline phase, or they might renew, they might regrow, they might just bounce back. How? Recall those points with the help of invention of new technology, with a new strategy, or any other kind of innovation. That is why this particular phase of an industry life cycle are given two names: decline phase and renewal phase. Right now, there are so many substitutes available in the market. There are so many competitors. So the threat of substitutes is very high. The return on investment is very low. My profitability is going down. Because there are so many substitutes in the market, again, the power of buyer is very high. Buyer has a choice. Buyer is more powerful. So in general, we can say that supply is more as compared to demand. Whatever we have invested, we are getting unsatisfactory return on that. The industry is dominated by few large competitors, so it no longer yields any big returns. The products or services which were there, which was a trademark for my organization, they might not be useful now because of old technology as the new technology is coming. But again, I will repeat, one part of the name is decline, another part is renewal. Some industries might emerge with the unique, innovative, and creative opportunities here to regrow itself. The companies might bring new business methods. They will bring some kind of disruption in the market, or they will do some kind of innovation so that they can survive. Not only survive, but also can renew themselves. So what kind of leadership is required here? Again, the transactional leadership and the undertaker. Now, who is an undertaker? Recall from that previous video. Take out whatever is left and shut down the rest. This is required to stop prolonged losses. So this is the decline and renewal phase of an industry life cycle. Now, in all these 5 phases, I've just given the highlights, the major characteristics of all these 5 phases. So you might just go, or you might want to make a comparative chart so that it is easier for you to just recall in one chart. You can just write down threat of substitutes and can compare all 5 stages. You can write about the return on investment and compare all 5 phases. You can talk about the competition. You can talk about the competition and all 5 phases. Right. So that's how it will be set in your mind. Right. So these are the 5 phases. Now we talk about the disruption of industry life cycle. Now, what is disruption of industry life cycle? The reason of disruption, emergence of new technology. I am going through a stable industry life cycle. Certain major disruptions come through. What are those? Emergence of new technology, emergence of a startup, launch of a new product. What happens when a sudden disruption comes? Or what essentially is disruption? This is when some, as I said, some new technology comes, a new startup comes, a new product comes. What are the positive impacts of disruption? I am an already established business. Now, a disruption has come in. How should I cope with it? There are some positive impacts as well as there are negative impacts. The first one is we'll decide to compete with the disruption. We'll try and analyze that disruption. We'll study that disruption in detail. We will analyze what is happening around us and we'll check the internal and external environment. We'll update and upgrade our capabilities, our technology. We'll update our methods. And ultimately, we'll make a strong position. We'll be able to give a positive fight to that disruption. That is a positive set of mind. Right? So what exactly is the positive impact? The disruption came, I checked that disruption based on my capabilities, my internal, external environment, based on that disruption, I prepared myself for the competition and I started to compete again. What is the negative impact of disruption? That generally happens with the big companies. Right. Before starting with this negative disruption, impact of disruption, I'll just share one example which I studied once. That was the example of Kodak. Right. When when the digital technology came and they wanted to make, earlier the Kodak had the reels. Right. The reels were put inside the camera and the photographs used to be clicked. But when the digital disruption came, Kodak refused to take that seriously. It just continued with its old technology, and it innovated, but then it sold that technology to somebody else, some other competitor in the market. What happened in the long run? Kodak failed, and the organization to which it sold the technology, they started making profits. So that is one of the negative impact of disruption. Organization does not want to change itself. There are two situations in which disruption can harm the organization. The first instance is the organization does not want to change its mindset. They will continue with their old ways. They will not change. They will be rigid. They will be stubborn. Ultimately, they will be suffering losses and will have to exit. Over. End of the story. The disruption has successfully eliminated my organization. The second kind of negative impact, me as a big organization, as a large organization, I'll be overconfident in the start. My organization will not think that any disruption or can happen or any startup can give me a competition. Slowly and slowly, as the threat increase, my organization will become little bit serious. And then we'll try and take preventive steps. But it might be that we are too late for that right now, and we'll start incurring losses. Ultimately, we'll have to exit. End of the story. The disruption has successfully eliminated my organization in this case also. So that is how, when a disruption happens in the industry, it can have positive impacts. It can bring my organization to higher levels. At the same time, it can just take my organization out of the competition. Right? How should I deal with the disruption? The disruption has happened. We understand the positive impact of disruption. We also understand the negative impacts of disruption. But I don't want to quit. I don't want my organization to lose. I do not want my organization to exit the market. What should I do? Of course, I have to deal with the disruption. How? There are three ways of dealing with that disruption. In-house development. We will try and develop all the capabilities within my organization. But in this case, I am assuming that my organization has those resources or expertise required. If not, maybe I can hire that expertise, or I can buy those resources. So that one way of dealing with that is in-house development. Make yourself so strong that you are ready to fight with that disruption. The second one is independent spin out. What does that mean? It means outsourcing the innovation of another entity with the required expertise. After I made an analysis of my capabilities, I understood that I do not have the required experience and expertise. So I should hire out somebody who has that kind of experience or who has that kind of expertise in the area. I can take their help. Right. As I said, in-house development, if I have the resources, if I have the expertise, I'll do that in-house. If I do not have the expertise and experience, I'll just outsource it to somebody who has that required experience and expertise. That is independent spin out. The third way of dealing with disruption is the acquisition. Buying the startup is another way to ensure that you gain the relevant capabilities and just future-proof yourself against the disruption. You end the competition then and there. Whosoever is disrupting you, you go and buy that disruption. You acquire, you purchase that startup. The competition is finished. So that's how an organization should plan. A leader should plan. A leader should make its strategy how to deal with this disruption. We'll be studying more about this disruption. It is being discussed in detail in module 7 also. Now, we'll just see an example which is given in the book, in the module. That is example number 2.5, the silent disruption of accounting service industry. Now, all of us are accountants. here, and we know that there have been so many changes in the profession of accounting, in the profession of a chartered accountant or a practicing accountant. At one point in time, there might have been manual ledgers. Then the technology progressed. But today, what has happened? The organizations are outsourcing their accounting activities. New tools have come up, new ERPs have come up, now online tax portals have come up. So, as such, the role of a traditional accountant or the traditional role of an accountant has undergone a complete change in today's time. What is that? That is disruption. Because of emergence of new products, because of emergence of new technology, the whole industry has undergone a complete change. That is the disruption in accounting service industry. Now, if we summarize, if we just summarize this, there is a long road to a rapid disruption, right? Enabling technologies, customer mindset, platform, economy, public policy, all have changed, right? So we need to see, we need to understand what is the exact nature of this disruption. How can accountants remain competitive and relevant throughout the disruption? There are again 3 ways which are suggested in this example. Build customer relationship to increase customer satisfaction, right? Understand the customer's needs. Give that an extra helping hand. Try and read his mindset. Try and provide services up to his satisfaction level. The next is invest in value-added services. Give additional services. Give those services which actually fulfill the value proposition, which actually fulfills the value which a customer is expecting from us. Improving brand reputation. How does this happen? Through associations or memberships. For example, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India or Institute of Chartered Accountants of New Zealand or Certified Public Accountants from CPA Australia. These are brands. They increase the reputation of a chartered accountant. So that's how accountants should remain competitive, should try and learn new things, should try and adapt to new technology and remain competitive and relevant throughout the disruption. So this is an example which is given in the module. So you can just go back to the book and read this example also. So today in this video, we discussed about different life cycle stages of an industry, the disruption, meaning of disruption, positive and negative impacts of disruption, how the disruption has changed the world and how we can deal with disruption. And we have studied the example of disruption in accounting service industry. I hope you have found some value in today's video. In case of any explanation, do write to me in comments. Thank you so much.